Thank you for coming today. It's our big change to start having people in the Zendo again. It's a wonderful, different feeling, so thank you for coming. And thank you for coming again, as usual, every week, no matter where you're from. Thank you, we appreciate that kind of support. And today I'd like to give everyone a kind of practice, a rather strong practice, I think it is, and a very difficult one. But if you can do it for a week, a month, a year, I think you will find that eventually your feeling of people will change a lot. And your feeling towards people will change. A sense of compassion will come up much faster and more easily and without fear. So that's what this is about. So I think there's a way to work for the world without having to look for a special circumstance or a special time. We don't have to wait to join forces with others. We don't have to make big waves of change or tear down what seems wrong in order to make a difference. It's a very simple thing to do, and yet I think the hardest we may ever have in practice. It's like a gardener who waters a very dry plant all the time. We just have to meet a suffering person who is angry, irritable, helpless, and lacking in self-control. And we meet that person with a disciplined response to all the negativity that we meet in another, whether it's deserved or not. We should always be the generous one. When you can do nothing in a situation when someone is angry, justifiably or not, silence may be the most appropriate response to give another person. But the generous one may be a silent response, or a cup of tea, or just to give the angry one a chance to let it all out without retaliation. To be the generous one may be the hardest part of practice because it means you have to forget the ego and receive with generosity what the other person gives. It means to forget that someone is to blame, that someone should pay for it, that someone who is hurt by the unhappiness of another, that is us when we receive it, in the moment, for the benefit of the other, we just receive it without retaliation of any kind. Sometimes, to be the generous one may be the only way to help someone in the moment. It may be not so much for us on the outside, since we may suffer a good bit ourselves, but expansion on the inside. Our interior is without equal. We don't exact any kind of impartial justice, however we may want to do, and it doesn't do anything for our spotless reputation because we take whatever is given. But however we may want to do something in return, we learn to hold and carry our own insecurity no matter what, without giving it back to someone else. And we pull up everything we are at the moment and carry it ourselves 100%. And we carry the other as well, the one who is angry. After such an open act, we have no regrets, and our self, our being, opens to the other person in a way we don't experience usually, because we give up self-defense. Each act of generosity awakens us a little more than before to what our real potential is. And it may not seem like much, but it does require discipline, very much discipline, of body, speech, and mind. And then, when we meet a circumstance that's unkind, hurtful, troubling, or destructive to our emotions, we can be the generous one. when we meet someone who expresses hate, unhappiness, or unreasonableness, when we don't know what to do in a situation, when helping seems too much, and it's too much for us to do or even attempt, or even a waste of time, we still can be the generous one. If we want to like ourselves, if we want to understand our own reality, really understand ourselves without illusions, when we meet the unhappiness of another, we can be the generous one. It seems like an adult should always behave like an adult. But the reality is that an adult can be spiritually young and immature inside. And in their touch with reality, they may not have a clear approach, and they become angry and upset over the smallest of things, much like we do before we start being the generous one. Many times it's very easy to get angry with someone because they behave unkindly or even uncaring in what seems like excessive immaturity. And it's also easy to get outraged with someone who behaves with ignorance. But perhaps they have been working on something else inside and they forgot everything else and just need a touch of kindness from someone rather than self-defense to protect them from their own ignorance. They can be empowered by generosity. We take our adulthood for granted as being obvious, but to a more mature person, we might seem even immature or unaware. When you meet an angry or troublesome person, they're probably dressed up in armor, with an army of reasons nearby ready with self-defense weapons. And if you can engage them as they are, nothing will be accomplished, because warlike attitudes on both sides will both go down in defeat if one doesn't wake up and step back. And that one can be us. Stepping down would be the generous one. If we meet another with no armor or weapons, then there's nothing but space and plenty of good ground to put the seeds of practice in, and the seeds of peacefulness in, and harmony. You might end up giving the best of yourself to someone who is ignorant of your gift, and they may even receive it badly. But the seed is planted even so, and will eventually reap a good harvest in someone who is bearing emotional misery almost beyond what they can take. You never see the fruit of it yourself, but like a good gardener, you put a healthy seed in fertile ground, and your garden eventually will enrich everybody. All things are possible within you, all things, but nothing is possible without practice and discipline of body, speech, and mind. Body and mind are a wondrous mix of growth, awakening, potential, development, and compassion. With generosity, you center yourself with both spiritual feet on your own ground, not somebody else's. Your ground is not a fortress, and it's not impervious to influence. But your ground is also not an unchangeable position you can rely on to always be the same. Your ground is where you stand firmly in a field far beyond form and emptiness. But the generous one, to be the generous one, doesn't mean to have special qualities or even to be special in any way. It just means to stand down in the face of great trouble and unhappiness and give the needed space for the flow of reality to move again. It means to give the best of yourself, whatever happens to you, to all of reality in each moment. Thank you, and if you have any questions. That's what I think it's something I hope all of you think about in this coming year, because right now especially it's the one thing we need more than anything, is to drop the idea of blame, drop the idea of finding someone who is easily set aside as being not worthy or something, and just without thinking of any of that, just give the best wherever we meet it, and find out how different your whole body and mind will feel after a while. Yeah.
A couple things. One was I've been reading it's Kodo Sawaki. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Anyways, point is I just finished a section where he essentially, the thesis ended up being like a bodhisattva is just a full grown up, mature human being, just a grown up, an adult. That's the way to be an adult, is to follow the bodhisattva path. You know, if you don't have to call it that, but essentially it's, you know, just not losing your head over the smallest little thing, and being generous, and you know, being the bigger human. You know what I mean? Anyways, so I found that part of your talk pretty resonant. And also in general, lately I've been sort of struggling with the notion that it seems, and I've seen this stated in a couple different memes out there, that it just feels downright irresponsible to not be mad about stuff and to not try and blame someone, because if we're not blaming someone, then we're never going to solve the problems, whatever they may be, and that would be bad because there are problems and we need to solve them. So I've been sort of struggling with, like, you know, and this is a theme that keeps coming up again and again and again, is the notion that somehow by trying to practice Zen, or by being a good Zen student, it means not taking care of people by way of, you know, sort of advocating for change in society or what have you.
Yeah. I think, you know, the idea of somebody always trying to do the right thing every moment does not have a good reputation in this country. And we have all kinds of bad names for it, goody two-shoes, you know, or Pollyanna, or somebody that's always like their head's off in the clouds. But actually practice as someone who just gives the best of themselves, whatever they meet, is the hardest practice I can think of, because you never have your ego helped. You never have your ego patted, you know, comforted, except in your own strength you hold yourself firm. But it's a way to really take care of people and to acknowledge that the ignorance and the struggle and the warring that's going on is personal suffering. And if we forget it and start thinking in mass groups, this whole group of people behaves like this, you know, it's terrible, there's nothing you can do. Actually, there is. Every single person you meet, you can help. And you can help without having to say you're helping. You can help without making a big fuss of it. You can just avoid letting an extension of someone's suffering go past you and go to someone else. You can just let it end right with you, and you can do it by carrying the load of it yourself. And we know how to handle that kind of suffering because we do meditation. And in meditation, when you practice calming your mind and stop thinking so much and not going off in ideas about it, then all this stuff falls off you like a water off a duck's back, you know. It does not hang on. It only hangs on when we cling to it and think further about it. And we don't have to do that. Somebody who's lost in their misery doesn't know that, you know, in most cases. And we do know it, so we're the bigger person in that situation, and we take care of them. We protect others from their own ignorance, and we protect them from our ignorance too, our self, you know, our self-nature and our desire to have something back in return. And you also give up the idea of ever having people say thank you. You give up the idea of never wanting anything in return. But everything you do like that wakes you up inside. Everything, every tiny small section that you do for another person like that wakes up a part of you, and you start looking around.
I've noticed it's easier to try and do something good, whatever that means. It's actually freer or easier if I am not bundling with it an expectation for getting something back or a hope for a thank you or anything like that. If I, just
If
doing
you just
the thing,
give
yeah.
that up, it's a great freedom.
Yeah.
It's like a weight that you carry. That expectation is always there, and whenever it gets pushed, the button of it gets pushed, you suffer.
Yeah.
And you just give it up, and it's like an enormous weight off your back when you do that. You don't expect it, it's a lot of freedom from your emotions. Whereas before, you were like always tied to something. If I do this, I should get this back. If I hurt this person, if this person hurts me, they should at least say they're sorry. None of that happens.
Yeah.
In fact, your efforts to be good at that point, to help them, usually causes more suffering for them, and they make a bigger fuss, and you just say thank you. And that's part of that, is in practice in temples, where no matter how much you're criticized or anything, your response is always gasho in return. You don't have to say anything, you just thank them. And you're basically saying, thank you, Buddha, another teaching. And that's what it comes down to, I think. Yeah, Mitch.
So, on the last couple of sentences, you talked about the flow of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Sure.
expand on that?
Okay. When somebody gets upset and very angry, they're throwing emotions into the works. It's like throwing sand in a clock that's trying to work. It eventually enough sand gets in there that the clock stops. All the parts come to a halt. And when we get angry enough and furious enough with other people and talk enough, we talk a lot of garbage, and we think a lot at that point, and we end up doing something as well. And when we're in there, we can stop that just by not carrying it further than it comes to us. We just let it go, we drop it, and don't allow it to pass on to another person, just by not fighting. And when you do that, you open space, whereas before it closed. You open some space and things can start to move again slowly.
So, but the concept of the flow of reality, it flows, it's
It flows.
dynamic.
Yes.
Could you expand on that?
Yes, if you ever watch your life going from 1 minute to the next, you watch how your thoughts move like a river, and they just one thing after another, and it never comes to a halt. It comes to an end of one idea and just slips into another as easily as anything. And you can confound that by a mantra. You can confound that constant flow in your mind with a mantra. And it's also, look at us, we start out young and we end up old. Our bodies get old. And that's a flow. From young to old is another flow. Everything about us is there's a change. Our thinking changes, our looks change, our attitude changes. And if we're practicing, our whole being, inside and outside, starts to change. But if we don't, if we block that with arguments and fighting and no discipline of our mouth, no discipline of our actions, no discipline of our thinking, then we get ourselves in all kinds of blocked situations where nothing moves, and we start repeating the same thing over and over again without even noticing it. We start doing the same things, we start repeating our gripes, our resentments, all the things, and we keep saying the same things over and over and don't even notice that we're repeating constantly. And at some point we can break that cycle, and it's a block. You can break it just by refusing to do it, and then you let things start to move naturally again. Like the Bodhidharma doll, when you knock it over, it always sits back up again because its natural movement is up. And so you can knock it over, and the only way you can hold a Bodhidharma doll down is to put your hand on it and keep it down, or put something on it to keep it down. Left to itself, it will just right itself up again. And that's what we're like, actually. We always tend to health, to awakening, to brightness.
That's the Buddha within us?
Yes, well, that's us. The Buddha within us is us. And so, yes, where our tendency is always to wake up, to move up, to be bright. We are bright, but we can make it very dark very easily with our mouth, with our thoughts. but we don't have to. We can always practice discipline of the mind when we sit by not hanging on to thoughts, and the body by making the body behave for a short time, even in sitting. So when you go outside, you carry that same small discipline to where you are, and you refrain from doing an action that can have harm just without even thinking about it. And your, your body, speech, and mind, yeah, all three of them really have enormous power to hurt others and to be hurt by others with it. And so the first thing we do is wipe out the be hurt part. And we're strong, we have our own ground, we've been sitting, we're practicing, we understand that our life is our own, in our own hands, and we can contain ourselves. And we don't have to hurt other people. And by not hurting other people, we stop hurting ourselves.
Recognize our own greed, hate, and delusion.
That's right, yes. We recognize our own greed, hate, and delusion, and start to practice discipline so that they will finally fall off of us. You don't have to throw it away. It will fall off of us because it's not who we are. It's who we think we are. Ego. Yeah, Scott.
It seems clear that we're not to be pushovers. If someone's doing something harmful to us, it's not like we have to stand there and just take it, right?
Well, I think you do have to just stand there and
Okay.
take it, but that's implying that you have no choice, for what's happening to you. You actually are in a position like a parent with a child.
Mm-hmm.
A parent doesn't care or think about themselves so much. If a child is having a tantrum or whatever, the parent isn't thinking, oh my God, this is hurting me, I have to stand this. Because the parent's only concern is that the child wakes up enough to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And you take the parent's only concern is like taking care of that person.
So like a creative solution to a confrontation rather than retaliation.
Yes, no retaliation,
Yeah.
no matter what. But the best thing in many cases is just to be silent and let somebody have their say,
Mm-hmm.
because they may not have it anywhere else.
Okay.
And they may not be heard anywhere else. If you hear them, really hear what they're saying, you can understand what they're talking about. And you can sympathize, really sympathize with them. Yeah.
When you first started talking about the situation, I should spend a long time with a grouchy person who's hard to get along with. I thought, I do that all the time, 24/7. This is me we're talking about, because I'm infinitely grouchy and crusty in certain modes and moods, and I don't realize it. So I think that actually helps in your question, because unless you sit with yourself and through all that misery you cause yourself and others and really pay attention to it, then it's hard. You don't understand how to be helpful to people, how to be present for them, because you've got something in between you, which is your own crusty grouchiness, sensitivity, lack of sleep or whatever that's going to set you off. So it's impossible to help them out because you haven't really worked to get yourself in that correct place.
You're not really helping them out. That's the first idea is you get rid of. You're not fixing anybody. You're not making their life better. What you're doing is, you're looking at yourself, honestly. You're not running from meeting yourself as a grouchy, cranky person, or an outrageous person, or a really angry person. You're not running from yourself. You're really looking at yourself. And when you just do that alone, will change everything.
Yeah, I think you learn how not to be scared of it. I think if you scared yourself enough and you realize it, then you realize that other people really can't scare you anymore for you to get into a reactive mode, I feel.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, you never stop. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them.
That's true.
Desires are what is it? Desires are
Yeah,
inexhaustible.
Delusions
are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. There's no stopping. There's no ending to it. And there's no satisfaction for your personal self. There's only the growth of your real being, who you really are. And one way, the first way, is to not run from yourself. That's the first thing. And the second one is to really care about yourself. Really care about the angry, cranky self, the outrageous self, the one who does nothing but cause trouble. That's all us. And to stop running from that and really see ourselves for real, then real compassion will come up on the surface where it should be. But it doesn't, we have to literally give up wanting satisfaction for the self, because we'll never get that, because the self is everywhere, all around us anyway. And when we run into real trouble with someone else, we're just facing what we are. And it may be really unhappy sometimes to face that, and yet our discipline, our practice here is what allows us to look at it without being afraid to do it. And to recognize that the world is separate, but at the same time it's not. And to learn to live with both those points of view without being afraid. And so, but to give up satisfaction, to give up personal happiness, to give up all these things does not mean not to experience them. It just means that you no longer expect to receive something that, you're trying to manage or manipulate into existence. It just means if it's there, and then it's gone. If it comes, it's fine, and then it's gone. But you can't hang on to it. You just, if it's there, even if it's 1 minute, you say, oh, that's nice, and then it's gone. In other words, you really have to put the self aside. You really have to let the self go. Yeah. I'm sorry. If anybody has a question up there, please speak up.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to do is, so if you're on Zoom and you have a question, please use the raise hand feature. It would be best. If you have trouble finding that, just go, I'm going to look at the participants right now. Just put your hand, your actual hand, towards your camera, and I'll just take a look and see if anyone's trying to ask a question. And then while I do that, I wanted to say, sort of share an anecdote which I heard from Fu Schroeder, which is when she had her rakusu on or something, and she was talking with her teacher, and she said something like, "Is this fast enough? I think to save the world." And her teacher's response was, "Fast enough to save the world from you." Yeah.
That's funny.
So I'm not seeing anyone's physical hand or virtual hand right now from the. Oh no, Virginia, is that you? Okay, 1 second. Please unmute.
Okay. How's that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Well, this is my very first experience, and I was wondering, I'm really impressed, and I was wondering what I should be working on. What's the first thing I need to do? Do I need to learn to meditate? I'm kind of overwhelmed.
Have you done meditation at all?
No, not really.
Well, meditation would probably help, because it's the way you sit and calm your mind and your body. And until the calming starts to take place, we believe too much about our thinking and too much about our circumstances, and we don't stop and look at things. And stopping and looking at things is what meditation is. You can sit on a cushion and just watch this mind moving all the time and never stopping. It's exhausting, and we don't even realize it, until you sit. And then people often say, my mind, as soon as I sit down, starts to race. It starts to go really fast. And I'm thinking, actually that's the way our mind usually is. And when we sit, we start seeing it for the first time. So I would advise you to find a place and people to sit with. Where do you live?
Simi Valley.
Oh, that's not very far from here.
No.
Huh?
I came in from Camarillo.
Scott here came in from Camarillo.
I came in from Atascadero.
Oh my goodness.
And Mitch came in from Atascadero, and Chris came in from San Diego.
Oh my goodness.
So we have a full Saturday schedule. If you'd like to come and join us, we'd welcome you. We'd be very happy to have
And a
you with
lesson
us.
too, lesson.
Oh,
And a
I would,
lesson
I
like-
plan to join your meetings frequently,
Well,
and
wonderful.
hopefully I can come personally someday.
If you can, we'll arrange a lesson for you at the same time. And probably we'll arrange lessons on Zoom at some point, really soon, I think.
Okay? Super, thank you.
It's welcome, and it's nice to meet you.
Yes.
Anybody else have a question there? Sandy?
Do we have instructions on our website how to meditate?
I think we do.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go on the website.
Do you have-
It's,
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, we do have directions for like a lesson in sitting on the website. And I forget what it's called. How to sit.
how to sit probably, yeah.
How to sit, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's like one of the options in the top part of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look on the
Yeah,
website
and-
and there is something there.
What was that, Sandy?
So that will give, oh, I was going to say that'll give her a start, just a basic start in how to sit and
Yeah.
how to meditate.
Okay.
This is June. If can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Can you hear me? Okay,
I
good.
can hear you. I can.
If anyone, including Virginia, wants to, I'm gonna just put it in the chat. I was gonna say that I can help with the Zazen instruction online next Saturday if anyone wants to. Sure, a little early.
Okay, June, wonderful. What time?
10 maybe?
Around 10?
Could do 10 if that works. Yes.
10 would be fine. So June will give direction or give lessons in how to sit if you want to come at 10 or on Zoom.
You come to here.
Yes, next Saturday.
So it'll be both on Zoom and here. June?
If anyone wants to watch it, and if there's no one who can do it in person, yes, they can watch the Zoom
Okay, good.
because I'll be doing this on Zoom.
All right, so 10 o'clock on next weekend on Zoom, June will begin doing it. And if anyone comes here in person and wants to, you can also watch the Zoom lesson. Or you'll
Maybe
be
do a
on
hybrid.
Zoom.
Maybe do a hybrid.
Or hybrid, as Chris said.
Are there any questions about the Dharma talk?
Any
Yes.
questions further about the Dharma talk, June? Any questions, June?
Just one thing that came up. Yes, one thing that came up on my mind was that a lot of times people struggle with when they have no expectation, they often let people walk all over them.
That's maybe what
and-
we have to do.
What's the good way?
Well, if
Yeah,
it
so
harms you-
what's the good way for them to practice self-care?
Self-care is not having expectations, not retaliating. You have a lot more self-respect when you don't feel that you're bringing out the worst of yourself, because you're Buddha. You as Buddha always understand when you're acting below your real potential, and so every time you do what either bothers you or doesn't bother you, I don't know, but every time you do not let another person draw out the worst of you, but you bring out the best no matter what, then I think that is real self-care. Anybody else want to add that?
Yeah, when
This
you are
conversation.
when you think about people walking all over you, you're totally involved in your feeling of self. And if you don't have that feeling, you will not feel the same way. You will understand they're being foolish.
Yeah. It's all about
Right.
practice.
So I
Because-
think this notion comes from more from like people around you, that's their perception of you when you don't retaliate and you're just open like that. People kind of tell you that that's what you're doing, that you're letting other people walk all over you. So I think it's very important that when other people tell you something, you don't always believe what they say. You just kind of do your own work.
Yeah, you don't,
Because I hear that so many times, like when somebody is generous, people think that you're just,
that's just negativity from another person. It's not something which should sway your own ground that you stand on. Your whole thing is building up your sense of real practice from the inside, not from the outside. So if you're doing it from the inside, you're not swayed by what other people say. If you're doing it from the outside, yourself gets involved.
You won't.
right. And I think that when we,
Yeah? June? Go ahead.
oh, yeah, sorry, the connection's kind of in and out. So it just took a while to realize that when you expect something in return, it gets really exhausting.
Yes.
But when you don't expect anything in return, like if you kind of practice that, you don't really lose anything. That's like
right.
almost like I wouldn't say paradox, but it's just like it seems against logic, but in a way it totally makes sense. That if
Yeah.
you give up the expectation, then you don't lose anything when you give something.
That's right.
Wait,
The expectation is what gives away energy. Yourself.
once you get yourself right with yourself, you're not going to perceive it as being walked on.
Exactly. That's please repeat that, Mitch, because that's a very important point.
Once you get yourself right with yourself, with greed, hate, and delusion, and body, speech, and mind, then you're not going to perceive it as being walked on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. Remember that old thing back,
Yes.
back
Yes.
50 years ago or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody see that book called? I think it was a
The Giving-
video too.
The Giving Tree. Yeah, it was a video.
Yeah,
it was
a
an
little-
animated. Yeah.
Animated story too. It was called The Giving Tree. And
Probably on YouTube.
yeah, it's a wonderful story. It's it made a big impression on me when I saw it years ago. It's about a tree that grows up, and
The boy keeps taking.
a boy comes to it constantly and keeps taking from it, the fruit from it, and sits under the tree and everything. He's always taking from it. Okay, but
Yeah, it's about 4
and
minutes.
eventually, finally, when the tree is so old that it's cut down, it's just a stump. Then the boy, I guess he's an old man, he comes now and he sits on the stump, and then the old tree is really happy again. He can still keep giving.
There's also a difference between like quote unquote getting walked all over on, and where it's just a matter of sort of perception. There is actually like people can overextend themselves by saying yes to too many people, and they can spread themselves thin, or they can be taken advantage of where
That's
they're
self-defense action again.
yeah. So there's actual being taken advantage of, and then there's the sort of more ego-based perception of being quote unquote walked all over on.
Yeah.
And then also, like, if someone perceives you as being walked all over, well, what does that mean for you? Does that mean that you can't accomplish something that you're trying to accomplish, and you need to, is that a situation where you need to, work with someone's perception, even if, it's flawed? Or
no, you affect people just by being who you are. You don't even have to try to change people. It's just if somebody is around another person who just refuses to fight or just refuses, they themselves, when they're around that person, stop doing it as well.
right.
I think.
Like, if a car's coming, you get out of the way of the car.
Exactly.
You don't have to let a car hit you in order to practice Zen.
Or
Thank
to
God.
be generous.
Otherwise, Zen wouldn't last very long.
Martial arts. Step off the line.
Step off the line.
Don't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
So it's just paying attention to what's going on, yeah, and not defending oneself when that's not the real issue ever, really,
Mhm.
unless somebody is coming at you with a weapon or something, in which case get out of the way. Yes, exactly.